Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
Yeah, I try not to practice envy, but I am a singer after all. He did that at the 9 o'clock service too. It's amazing, beautiful kid. We have a guest speaker today, and I'm going to tell you about her. Her name is Maggie Cole, and she is a renowned speaker and teacher, writer. I am not a woo-woo guy. You know what I mean? I tend to be more practical in my approach to spirituality. I want to discover the places where I need to do the work and go on. All of this kind of mystical, it's not really what I'm drawn to. And yet, John reminds me I'm way more woo-woo than I let on. And I do have experience of how intricately, what's the word? I get messed up on that word. Say it for me. Intricately. I said it wrong again, didn't I? It sounds weird. I'm going to move on. How beautifully everything is connected. Thank you. You're welcome. When I was about 12 or 13 years old, I was sitting alone in my parents' living room watching the old RCA TV on channel 11 in the Tulsa region. It's PBS, and Nova was on, which I liked watching, and I was kind of a science geek. And it was a beautiful story of a young man who had been burned quite severely, and it was the story of the medical treatment and recovery that he and his single mom went through. And it's called Here's Looking at You, Kid. And it was a really powerful story, and I was drawn to it. But it was the mother in particular that just really captured my attention. There was a scene where the mom is talking to the son and saying something like, you know how we talked about in the hospital, how we can start our good day right now. And something lit up in me. I was like, my mom doesn't talk to me like a person, like this mom was talking to this son. And it just moved my heart. And then I promptly forgot about it, watched a lot of other shows, and went on with my life, right? 30 years later, thereabouts, I had found this teaching. I'm at a conference in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and there's a woman named Maggie Cole who was leading a workshop at this conference on prayer, and I'd heard how wonderful she was as a teacher, and so I attended, and she was quite wonderful. We met at that conference, but she didn't remember. I made no impression on her whatsoever. But she did make one on me. The next time we were together at a conference, it was in California, in the Monterey Bay area at a Silomar, and I was singing, and I caught her attention at that point, and we struck up a friendship, and we had an impromptu opportunity to work together that week. It just kind of happened, and we found a magic in the way that we create sacred space and teaching together. And it began a friendship and a collaboration, and over the next few years, we deepened in our friendship, and we started leading retreats and workshops really all over the country. And a couple years later, we were at a Silomar again in California, and I had known that Maggie had this movie that had been made about her son. I wasn't paying a lot of attention to what was being said about it, but at our Silomar conference, she was going to be showing the movie and then having a discussion about it. And so I'm sitting next to her in the front row, and we start watching this movie, and then it was a Nova episode. And about 10 minutes in, I realized, oh my gosh, my friend, my soul partner in this work, I had this connection to her 30 years ago, sitting in a town of 400 people in Oklahoma. And somehow my soul recognized her, and we were drawn together in a powerful way. She's amazing. We continued to deepen in the work that we do and lead all over the country together. She does her own, I do mine, and occasionally we get opportunities to play together. My very first time in this sanctuary as a guest singer, I came on a Saturday just to check it out, and that Sunday morning I walked in here, and I had no idea that Howard Caesar was going to offer me a job as assistant minister and then eventually ask me to be his successor. No idea, but when I stood on this stage, I had a vision of me standing up here and teaching and speaking with Maggie Cole. And so today, my woo-woo has come to fruition. And I am so honored to present her to you. Maggie Cole received last year the Practitioner Meritorious Award from the Centers for Spiritual Living, which is a big deal. It's like the Best Actress Award at the Oscars for spiritual teachers and healers. She is renowned for her ability to hold truth for people and to tell people who they truly are in God. I want you to give her a warm Unity welcome. Maggie Cole.
Oh, there's more people. Hi. So we did the talk last service, and ever since then, so much has poured into my mind, so God only knows what's going to happen here today. I do want to say that when I met Michael at Asilomar, when I met him the second time, where I paid no attention to him the first time. I must have been so full of myself, I didn't notice anybody else. I was the stage manager, and we had met in a meeting with the team, and so I saw him. I'd been at Asilomar being stage manager for many years. I've seen many music directors, but I had not experienced him. He came and sat at the piano, and I was standing backstage, you know, watching everything. And I began to weep. And I thought, this is very different than anybody I've ever seen in this position. He was present to it. He was involved in it. He was engaged in it. Things that I love to be involved and engaged and present to, like my life. And I fell in love with him. Do we tell him the joke about the... Sure. Okay. Michael shared this with me, that there was this woman, and other woman in his life says, if I was young and you were straight.
It's actually a song.
And since I met John Moore, I've kind of given that up. So anyway, I was kind of waiting, since today is about waiting, I was kind of waiting to become young and he'd become straight, and then it was just foolish. So I was taught to wait. I think many of us were taught to wait. Can you wait just a minute? Yeah, I don't have time for you now. Can you wait? The line is over there where you can wait. There's a Seinfeld episode where he talks about, I love Jerry Seinfeld, where he talks about, yeah, let's hear it for Jerry Seinfeld. Anything for applause, I'll do anything. So he talks about George is going to the doctor, and he talks about the waiting room. He said, and you know you're going to wait because it's called the waiting room. And then you leave the big waiting room and you go to the smaller waiting room. But you don't want to go to the big waiting room where people are going, I've got to see this operation. So I thought, waiting, waiting, waiting. And I thought, I've been taught to wait. And I'm not real good at patience. Someone commented one time at the DMV, and they said, I'm so glad you were patiently waiting. I said, I wasn't patiently waiting, I was tolerating this. So, wait and see. Good things come to those who wait. So there's a reason to wait, because at the end of that long wait, you might get something good. I don't want to wait any longer. It's too long to wait. What will happen at the end of this waiting? So I've been waiting 8 years to be on this stage with Michael. But a lot of stuff has happened. I haven't just been going, when is this going to take place? So sometimes when we wait, I know I used to do this. I want to make something happen. I want to push the river. I think I can do this. I can transcend this. I can go for it. And one of the things I've learned is that God knows what time it is. And every season, summer doesn't come in January. Summer comes in its time. John was waiting for summer to come to Houston. So everything has a time. My philosophy in life is timing and communication can heal the world. So timing has a lot to do with it. And of course, lighting is essential. But there's something about wanting to move the condition when it's not time. So we find ourselves waiting. And when I listened to Michael's meditation during the first service, I realized, because he talks about being in the now, being present to the now. And I thought, when I am in the now, because I have to stop and say, wait a minute, there's no past, there's no future. There's this moment. When I'm in this moment, all things are holy. There is nothing to do. There is nothing to be. There's nothing to achieve. There's nothing to work for. There's nothing to accomplish. I'm in this now moment, so there's no waiting when we are present to the now moment. My mother shared her philosophy of life with me throughout my life. One of them is you struggle and then you die. It wasn't a very hopeful thing. And then the other thing was you work hard, because if you don't work hard, you don't get. So I thought if I didn't work hard, I had no value. And most of the time when I grew up, I didn't feel like I had any value nor any worth. And so what was I waiting for? For that to come upon me? And then 30 years ago, I walked into a Science of Mind church. And I heard this teaching, and I went, could this be true? That I and God are one? Could this be true? That I'm the light of the world? And I used to go to the Revelation Conference every year at Agape. And about 10 plus years ago, maybe even more, Michael and Ricky were doing this thing. And they asked people to come up and share. And I thought, well, I know what I want to share. And I got up there, was in line for people. And when I got up there and turned around to these 800, 900 people, I forgot what I was up there for. And it didn't matter, because what wanted to come out of me is to stand there and say, I want you to witness that I'm the light of the world. And when Michael started talking, because he talked after everybody shared, I was walking to my seat, and I thought, oh, he's speaking about me. One of the things he said was, Maggie has just proclaimed that she has no more excuses. And I thought, oh, Lord, I'm caught now. And there's that waiting for the realization of the truth to be embodied and to be welcomed. It's like Michael and I have this thing about show me what's here. This is what's here. So I don't have to wait to be enlightened. I don't have to wait to feel the presence of God. I don't have to wait. What I do have to do is surrender, trust God, have faith that this is true, and then live in it. There is no waiting for God. You do not have to accomplish anything. It is implanted, it is innate in you. It's freely given, and it's freely given and available in every moment. And so I don't take over this whole time. I turn this over to my friend Michael.
Oh, thank you, Maggie. Yeah, I think you said something really powerful. Our title today is, What Are You Waiting For? And I think that what Maggie was showing us is that all the different ways that we're conditioned, we're trained to wait. And what we actually believe and what we are taught in this lineage of teaching is that there's only now. the eternal infinite now. And there's nothing out in the world of conditions that needs to change so that you can have your good, so that you can live a life of fulfillment. There's nothing out there that's going to say it's okay and then you can step into it. It's what's in here. And so we were talking about this idea of waiting upon the Lord. This is a phrase that comes from the Hebrew Bible. And this is from Isaiah chapter 40, starting with 28. Do you not know, have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth, and he will not grow tired or weary. In his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But verse 31, but those who wait in the Lord will renew their strength, will soar on wings like eagles, will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. The word the Lord there, what is typically translated in, is Yahweh, which would never be spoken in a Jewish house of worship. It's too sacred. So they would use another phrase. But what's inherent in the Hebrew word is this. It is the absolute and unchangeable one, the existing, ever living, as self-consistent and unchangeable, the one ever coming into manifestation. This is who and what we are, that this power of creation is alive and lit up within us. And so here we are, we're looking to the world of condition to give us permission to have the life that God has already given us. We're waiting. When there is no waiting, it's already here, it's already yours. This idea came to me of we do have to work with the level of condition on some level. Like you think, this came to me this morning, you have a house with a yard, when the grass gets high, what do? You cut the grass. That's just the condition arises, we respond. And life is full of things at that level that we see what happens in the world and we respond. But if, for instance, to push this metaphor a little bit, if you had a half acre of yard and you dreaded mowing that yard because it was always growing, you were controlled by the condition, you might think that I am at the mercy of that grass. That I have to wait upon that grass for me to be free. And what we teach is that no, the creative impulse of life itself is within you and you are at choice. You could pave it all over. You could buy a house that didn't have a yard. You could plant something else. You see what I'm talking about? Is that we believe that we are limited by the conditions that we are currently experiencing, and I can't get any better until something out there changes. But what I'm here to tell you, and what we're here to tell you today, is that life is wanting to be fulfilled through you. And if we will listen, it will guide us into the ways of being in relationship, and the conditions will rearrange themselves, will reorient themselves to reflect your higher consciousness of what life is. And you will find yourself living in a penthouse apartment with no grass to cut, or something will show up for you. Elizabeth Gilbert, the author of Eat, Pray, Love, I heard an interview with her recently. She talked about her new definition of magic is this: what wants to happen next. What wants to happen next. And our job as spiritual men and women is to listen for what wants to happen next. And that, for me, is waiting upon the Lord. Turning from what is happening without to what is happening within and listening. And the Spirit speaks in the language of feeling. You will feel drawn to certain activities and people and places like Unity Church. You will feel drawn to those things that are a match for your new heightened sense of reality. And you will feel led to release those things that are no longer a vibrational match. You know, the beautiful work of Marie Kondo, the Japanese, organization expert. I just love her. Her whole thing is about feeling. If you want to declutter your life, you think about what gives you joy. And I saw this, someone had posted, a woman had said, I tried the Japanese method of decluttering where you hold every object that you own, and if it does not bring you joy, you throw it away. So far, I've thrown out all the vegetables, my bra, the electric bill, the scale, a mirror, and my treadmill. We're kidding. But you get what's being asked for. We're not waiting on the world to change. We're aligning ourselves with the truth that already is. And that's where we move from. Take it, Maggie.
I had a thought.
I'm so surprised.
I'm so surprised. My chiropractor says I think too much. I enjoy watching my thoughts.
Yeah.
So I ignore what she said. I told a story in the first service, and I'm telling a different story in this service because it came alive for me while you were talking. I was in a train wreck of a relationship, and Michael was witness to this train wreck. And I owe him so much for walking with me through that train wreck. And I remember sitting at my computer one day, and I was in that space of waiting. I'm waiting to get over this. I'm waiting to be healed. I'm waiting to move on. And I felt so stuck. And I remembered Ernest Holmes saying, we're always moving forward. I didn't feel that forward movement. You know that place where you think, I can't even move. I'm filled with grief, or I'm filled with sadness, or I'm filled with remorse, or something. And I get a newsletter from a woman named Jan Nation, who spoke at our church many years ago. She's a phenomenal speaker, writer. And at the top of her newsletter, it said, what was the cause of my first suffering? When I hesitated to speak. My whole life flashed before me. I cried for 20 minutes, which is not unusual for me. And I thought, I haven't spoken up in this relationship to my family, to my church, to all these places. I haven't spoken up. And I like to speak. But I'm also have been, in my life, very intimidated by my surroundings and by the people in it. So what was the cause of my first suffering? I hesitated to speak. There's hesitation, and then move on. I was trapped in that hesitation. I was waiting for something to happen out here to make me better. And yet I knew through this teaching that that wasn't the way it worked, but I thought, you know, if you ever, we were taught to do spiritual mind treatment in Centers for Spiritual Living, and I love that form of prayer. And there's sometimes, and I heard this from a Signs of Mind minister, she says, sometimes I get on my knees and say, help me, God, show me what's here.
Amen.
And when that little phrase came from this 16th century French philosopher, I thought, here's my way out. I'm going to start to speak. And even if it's in my own heart, I'm saying, this is who I am, this is what I am. And I saw him a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, my therapist said, one day you'll just see him and go, well, there he goes, without having all this torment. And I saw him, and I went, there he goes.
That's right.
He didn't look too good either.
And look how cute you are.
And look how cute I am.
There's something, too, I feel like I wanted to say to this conversation, and we got to wrap it up here in a minute. But there is, if you want more, come back at 1:30.
There's not enough time.
There's not enough time.
Yeah.
They have to come back at 1:30 for our workshop at the Pyramid. But the idea of the seasons of life, you said God always knows what time it is. And there are times in our lives when it feels like, it may look like nothing is happening. But God is shifting us. God is rearranging us. If you think about, we don't have much of a winter here in Houston, but you know, the trees, like these red oaks just right outside the sanctuary, they were bare 3 weeks ago. Bare. They looked like dead branches. But none of us were worried about it. None of us called the arborist to come take them out. We knew what was happening, right? It was their season to be empty. And we knew that something was at work, and I want you to look at them today. They are filled with pollen and leaves. It's coming. And so there are times, don't you agree, that there are times when it feels like I'm stuck. But we're not waiting on something outside of us to change, but we are sitting in the presence of transformation. And that's what's needed at that moment. Yeah?
Yeah.
What else? Bring us home, Maggie Cole.
Well, it's probably true that some of you are not available or might not be drawn to the workshop this afternoon. One of the things I love to do, in fact, it's on my profile and on the website of my church. One of the things I love to do is witness people. Yeah. And I'm so incredibly curious that I want to go around and ask every one of you, what is going on right now? Yeah. What are you feeling right now? What are you interested in? What are you curious about? And in the pyramid, we have sheets up. And it's like, it's an opportunity to kind of take an inventory. And you go, I didn't know I was waiting for that or that or that or that. And another one of our sheets is the seed I want to plant today. Yeah. Is. And the other chart is the burden I want to lay down today. So I'm a person who asks those questions in myself all the time because I don't have a lot going on in my life. So I do an inquiry a lot of times. So this is your opportunity to do that inquiry and see what's there for you. Sometimes we're so busy, we don't check this out. We do a practice, but maybe we don't ask the questions that are deep under there that want to be unearthed. So I invite you to come because we're really good together.
So I want to close with this. It's just really powerful. Maggie subscribes to as a daily newsletter, Inner Visions, which I believe comes from the Agape Center in Los Angeles. And the writer of this one is Daphne Germain. And I just want to say that all of us have something going on. Every one of us have something where we wish it were otherwise. We're waiting for it to be different. And sometimes we get this idea that my life will begin when. And this is a reminder that your life is happening now. What's your response? I want to thank you, God, for what you have already done. I'm not going to wait until I see results or receive awards. I'm thanking you right now. I'm not going to wait until I feel better or things look better. I am thanking you right now. I'm not going to wait until people say they are sorry or until they stop talking about me. I am thanking you right now. I'm not going to wait until the pain in my body disappears. I'm thanking you right now. I'm not going to wait until my financial situation improves. I am going to thank you right now. I'm not going to wait until the children are asleep and the house is quiet. I am going to thank you right now. I'm not going to wait until I get promoted or at work or until I get the job. I'm going to thank you right now. I'm not going to wait until I understand every experience in my life that has caused me pain or grief. I am thanking you right now. God bless you. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.